Hello everybody and welcome to a deck tech about Dexter Drake and how Dexter loves to smash and Dexter loves to bash with the Cyclopean Hammer. You might have remembered that this video came out last Saturday, and it did, but I am re-recording it to get clearer audio because there was the dreaded static that took over the video. But we are looking at fixing our audio and doing better. It's just going to be a process as we get there. But obviously we care about you guys, and we want to give you guys videos that don't have static. So let's break down this Dexter Drake deck that I took through the Dark Matter run that is currently up on the channel. Let's dive in and get past this page. So, the goal of this deck is that Dexter takes on the role of the monster hunter of the group, using his Cyclopean Hammer to attack for 8 without any other modifiers. 8 is a big number. You add further modifiers to this, and this becomes comfortably like 9 or 10, and then like you're really hitting the monsters very hard. I chose Dexter for this because our patrons, they voted that I use the Cyclopean Hammer as my weapon of choice through my next campaign, and I thought Dexter Drake would be the most fun one to try it with for a multitude of reasons, but the most important reason is Molly Maxwell, his unique asset that is only available in the Blood of Balshandor book, which we will get to. You can still play this with regular Dexter, you just need to do a bit more for it. So, before we get to the deck tech, and looking at the level 0 deck, I'm going to show you guys the required expansions for this deck, and its upgraded final version. So, as you can see here, there's a bunch of sets you need. You need the core and the revised core, Dunwich Legacy, the Essex County Express, but that's just for the Relic Hunter, so that can turn into just the revised core if you have that. There's also Echoes of the Past and Black Star Rise from the Path to Carcosa, the Forgotten Age and the Return to the Forgotten Age, Threads of Fate, the Circle Undone, In the Clutches of Chaos, the Dream Eaters, the Search for Gadath, Dark Side of the Moon, the Blood of Balshandor book. That's for this Dexter. As I said, though, that's not required. You could do this without it, but I think Molly Maxwell, I think she's a really good piece for it. We have the Innsmouth Conspiracy. There's a lot from the Innsmouth Conspiracy in this deck because it's built around the curse mechanic. So if you don't want to build around the curse mechanic, you actually can take the majority of the whole Innsmouth Conspiracy out if you don't have that cycle, or alternatively, if you do not want to build around the curse mechanic. You can take out like all of those cards there. Edge of the Earth, obviously Cyclopean Hammer is important, but luckily Edge of the Earth is starting to actually ship everywhere now, so it's going to be available, and you'll be able to actually play it, and the Investigator expansion is really easy to pick up. You're not going to be out there hunting for specific Mythos packs, which makes that a lot nicer. Let's see the level 0 deck, shall we? So, level 0 deck's pretty simple. I'm not going to go into detail breaking it all down, but Dexter Drake has the ability as a lightning bolt during your turn, discard an asset you control, play an asset with a different title from your hand, reducing its cost by 1. Limit once per round. So this is a way that you can kind of cheat things out and also just get some action economy out of this. It's basically a free action on your turns and a little bit of resource reduction. Oh baby! Of course you need to put the action and the resource into the asset earlier, but it works really good with things that have charges, like, oh my god, spell assets? Holy crap, what a twist. There's also some upgrades in the later version that also can take advantage of his ability, which I will get to when we get to them. So, going through the assets, we have Ritual Candles and Sword Cane. These get taken out. These are just things that allow us to kind of have a little bit of use for our hands, and they're also very cheap assets, especially the Ritual Candles, that when we're sick of them, we can turn into something else with the power of magic. Sword Cane exists as our weapon in our deck until we get to the Hammer, which also has something with Molly Maxwell, which I will get to. I know I've been talking a lot about Molly Maxwell. She's on the screen now, so if you want to read her, you can. But I'm going to be going deeper into Molly. Phrasing, Justin, what the frick? We're going to look at Molly's card in more detail in the future. Now, our spells here, we have Armageddon, Mists of Rilia, and Shriveling. Holy Rosary to bump up our brain, Arcane Initiate for helping us find spells, and also we want to take advantage of our ally slot. David Renfield to give us brain and also economy. We do want to ensure that we can pay for our cards. Cyclopean Hammer is very expensive, David Renfield will be taken out as the deck goes further, but he's in here at the beginning. Liquid Courage. This one's going to last, I think, through the majority of the deck. I could be wrong, but I think this goes into our upgraded version. Arcane Research, because we're a mystic and we're upgrading our spells, we should play Arcane Research. Going to our events, we have Deny Existence because it's bonkers, Emergency Cash because we need money, Faustian Bargain because we need even more money, and we're taking advantage of the downside with the curses, so Faustian Bargain's pretty sick. Read the Signs, helps us get some clues and some downtime. Scout Ahead, trying this card out in this deck for the first time. I did like it, and I think it does well for moving you around the board, which is also really good for allowing you to split up from your Kluver if they're built for it. We got Spectral Razor, which is just more damage, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit. Ward of Protection, great event, and Promise of Power, which is a skill, because Promise of Power is just like really, really good. Let's look a brief look at our upgraded deck, but we're going to come back to this in a few, because this is just kind of like, you can kind of see how it shifts. But I do promise that we are going to be looking at this in greater detail in a few. So before I break this deck down in detail, we're going to just look at a few notable cards. Cyclopean Hammer. This is the main goal of your deck. Once Cyclopean Hammer is out, everything else is just gravy. Use the hammer to smash, use the hammer to bash. It's simple. So Cyclopean Hammer, 5 cost, 5 experience, takes up both hand slots. As an action, you can fight, add your brain to your skill value for this attack. You deal +1 damage for this attack. If you succeed and the enemy is non-elite, you may move it 1 location away from you. If you succeed by 3 or more, you instead deal +2 damage and may move that enemy up to 2 locations away from you. So it deals massive damage and you throw things back. One thing I find with Cyclopean Hammer is the knockback isn't too relevant because most of the things are dead before you have the chance to knock them back. If we look at their traits, this is also actually very important because we have the item, relic, weapon, and melee. The weapon trait is super key for a very specific reason, and that reason is none other than Molly Maxwell. So, this is why I built the deck around the Blood of Balshandor version of Dexter. Because when you have the Cyclopean Hammer, you want to fight, you want to find it. And someone like, for example, Lily Chen who can run it, or like Mark Harrigan who can run it, because you see it's Guardian 5, so Guardians can run. I believe Mark can run it to level 5. Maybe I'm crazy here and I'm just having a weird brain fart. But if you can run Guardian, you can use Prepared for the Worst to find it. Dexter Drake doesn't have that luxury, so instead we're looking at another way to find it, and Molly Maxwell is our ability for that. So Molly Maxwell, she's a 3-cost asset, soaks for 2 damage and 4 horror, and she has the ability Lightning Bolt, exhaust her and deal 1 horror to her. Name any trait. 1 at a time, reveal cards from the top of your deck until an asset with a named trait is revealed. Draw that asset, shuffle each other revealed card back into your deck. So, if Cyclopean Hammer is the only weapon in your deck, you can just name weapon and find Cyclopean Hammer. There is a little bit of a resource cost for this because Molly Maxwell costs 3. So that means now if you want to dig it out, it costs 8 in total to play. 4 if for some reason you want to turn Molly into a hammer afterwards, even though she's much better soak than that. It's something to just ensure that you basically are running 3 copies of Cyclopean Hammer in your deck, and consistency is key. If your job is to fight monsters, you need to fight monsters. If the monsters are running around and you can't fight them because you don't have your weapons, you are going to lose. So you want to be sure that you can find your Cyclopean Hammer, and Molly Maxwell gets you there. In addition, the red clock and the hammer are your relics, in this deck anyway, which if you want to make your changes, you always want to be looking at how you can take advantage of Molly Maxwell's ability, and if the hammer's in play and you're like, do you know what I want to do? I want to use my clock. You can use Molly Maxwell to find the red clock. And while this deck can have good success with normal Dexter, as I said, Molly provides great consistency, and consistency is key. Because the goal of this deck is to be a fighter, we want to ensure that we have things to fight with if we don't draw Molly or our hammer. I chose Armageddon to build around the rogue curse cards, but this could be any of the Mystic Kill spells. You could do Shriveling, Zerflame. However, if you do that, you might want to look at if the entire curse package is worth it to you. I look at curse tokens as less of something to build around and more of to take advantage of. So on its baseline, Armageddon still just deals 2 damage. That's fine. But if you happen to draw a curse token, it's now dealing additional damage or giving you more shots with your Armageddon. I like it. I'll build around in this deck because I'm playing Faustian Bargain, right? I might as well take advantage of it. Spectral Razor and Reestrad are in the deck to provide simple additions for consistency. Once again, even though Cyclopean Hammer, the Cyclopean Hammer game plan is awesome, we still need more methods of dealing damage to ensure our deck is consistent. We can't rely on always drawing the Cyclopean Hammer. There will be times when we are playing when we are not lucky enough to have the Cyclopean Hammer or Molly Maxwell in our opening hand. It happens. So in addition to our spell assets, having Spectral Razor and Reestrad as kill spells are good tools for that. Spectral Razor is obviously better than Reestrad just generally, like when you just look at it. However, Reestrad is still just a 0-cost kill spell. You can use it even if you have played other things, and it also just adds curse tokens to the bag, so if you are taking advantage of that or trying to use a Favor of the Moon, Reestrad is really nice for that. Favor of the Moon and Priest of Two Faiths both help the curse archetype out, but they also provide a cheap asset that can be used to trigger Dexter's ability. Liquid Courage holds a similar spot in this deck, and while this deck doesn't take full advantage of Dexter's ability because the goal is the Cyclopean Hammer, you still want to have some cheap options to get value out of it where you can. So, Favor of the Moon is really nice. It only costs 1 and it's fast and it gives you resources back. Follow it up after a Reestrad or a Faustian Bargain and just like lock away those curse tokens if you don't want other people to see them, and then use them with your Armageddon. Or, when there's only 1 left on your Favor of the Moon, why don't you just turn this into something else, right? Like, that's a thing you can do with Dexter. You can turn it into a kill spell. You can turn it into a Priest of Two Faiths. You can turn it into a Cyclopean Hammer, even, if you haven't played one yet. Priest of Two Faiths is killer, absolutely killer in Dexter Drake. When I saw Bryn play him in his Dexter Drake, I was very impressed. And then when I put him in my Dexter Drake deck, this one through Dark Matter, I was also very impressed. So after he enters play, you add 3 Blessed tokens to the Chaos bag, and then at the end of the upkeep phase, you either add a Curse token or discard Priest of Two Faiths. We're taking advantage of Curse tokens, so adding them isn't a bad thing. We like doing that. And we also can just have this guy soak a bit and then turn him into something else. Priest of Two Faiths is like the perfect Dexter ability card. Really good with Dexter. Even if you are not running a Curse build or a Blessed build, Priest of Two Faiths is just the value. Good card. Consider playing in a Dexter. You probably won't be disappointed. Liquid Courage, similar thing, only costs 1, can heal horror. Luckily Dexter with his high brain can heal horror very easily. And it's just another thing that you can turn into something else once it's empty or when you are no longer needing it. This is the last card I just want to talk about here. This card is by no means a priority to put in. I just think it's neat. I think it's neat. It provides good value as you play with it, and Molly Maxwell can dig it up. And I just think that's neat. Alright, let's look at our final deck list again. So this is the upgraded version. You can find down in the description my deck links to all of the upgraded, so you can see my upgrade path. But one thing that's really fun about this deck is that you can kind of do your own thing. It's built mostly, like the goal of the deck is mostly around Dexter Drake and that Cyclopean Hammer. So if you don't use, if you're like, basically everything else, you can kind of just do what you want with it. So take this as inspiration or follow the deck list if you're curious. I think you'll have a good time no matter what. No matter what you want to do with it, I think this Dexter Drake deck will kick butt. And I know as printed, it also kicks a lot of butt. So let's break it down. Cyclopean Hammer, 2 of them at 2 level 5, 10 experience right there. Good chunk of it. Important part of the deck, we need it. 2 Armageddon 4s, there are kill spells. We also upgrade them with our arcane research, so like that's kind of the path you need to do. The Mist of Rella could be anything here. I like the Mist of Rella. It costs like next to nothing to put into play, so it's something that you can take advantage of, and if you don't have your hammer, you can use that for the time being. This was also a personal choice for my campaign because my other investigator was Ursula Downs, and she can really like support herself. So my theory behind it was that Miss Aurelia would give Dexter a panic button if he doesn't have his hammer or a kill spell. It's just something else that we can do to, sorry, something else that can be done. Something else that can be done to handle ourselves without getting overwhelmed by enemies. Holy Rosary survived the whole time. That shouldn't be a surprise. It's a good card with Dexter Drake. The red clock also takes up the necklace slot, but as you can see, we have a relic hunter in there. This is something that if you're not going to go into the red clock, you don't need the relic hunter. Saves you some experience and also 4 for the red clock. And also, you know, you can put something else in. Whatever floats your boat. 2 Priests of Two Faiths. Talked about that card really good. 4 of Cups gives you more brain. Allow you to attack at 10 if everything's in play. Favor of the Moon, just as a one of. This was added pretty late into my build, but I still think it functioned pretty okay. Because, as I said, it's not really like my crazy goal to like use the curses. It's mostly just, it was more there to take advantage of Dexter's ability and maybe lock some things from Riostrad when that went off. Liquid Courage, so you see, look, it made the whole cut. I think Liquid Courage is just a great one of in Dexter. False Covenant to protect myself from my curse tokens if I didn't like them there. Level 5 Deny Existence because holy cow, that card is a frickin' house. It's also part of my Arcane Research plan. If you have an Arcane Research in your level 0 deck, you should have a plan to use it for every scenario afterwards to get full advantage, even if it means you upgrade certain things a little bit slower. 3 Easy Marks, these are replacing the emergency caches. I just think they're better for this deck. We don't really need that much economy. Our big thing is the hammer. And obviously the Armageddon, but if you have the hammer, you're kind of just set. 2-time Ethereal Slip 2s. This was something I just tried out. Still don't know how I think about Ethereal Slip 2. I think this card is always just going to be... The dream of the card is better than the actual card. Faustian Bargain made it through the whole time because holy crap, that card's bonkers. 2 times Riostrad, 2 times Spectral Razors, 2 times Ward of Protection 2s, because Ward of Protection 2 helps the other person. If you're playing with multiple people, you should get Ward of Protection 2. It's really good with Arcane Research because you basically can upgrade them for free over the course of 2 scenarios. Then we got a Promise of Power, also just a bonkers card that made it through the whole thing. So, that is the upgraded final version of the Cyclopean Hammer deck. As I said before, you can find a deck list for all of the upgrade path down below, as well as a link to our Patreon page. If you want to support the Patreon, that's the place to do it. You can go down there, you can get a bunch of cool exclusives and help us shape our future content and see more deck techs and more gameplay at certain levels. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel, and thank you for watching. You can consider liking and subscribing to get even more Arkham content. Have a good one. We'll see you guys for the next episode. And as always, GG's.